got Porzingis, you got Holiday, you got Derek White, you got literally, I would say what? 5 guys that can get you 20 points in a game?
I know people say it's, only one guy. I don't believe that, Coach, that, one guy, those days are over, in my opinion. Like, a Bill Russell, a Wilt Chamberlain.
Betting above the rim, only on Sports Grid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sports Grid.
Gerrit Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Gerrit Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire, only on Sports Grid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with the injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line, only on Sports Grid. And welcome in a very happy Wednesday now, December the 4th here, 2024. Hard to believe, but yep, that is where we are at. And that will include a 56-game slate in college basketball here tonight, headlined by, well, a bunch of Final Four caliber style games. We got Auburn at Duke at Cameron Indoor. We got Alabama at North Carolina. Not to mention Pitt versus Mississippi State. How about Kansas and Creighton? And, oh, yeah, one of our favorite matchups here tonight, the Baylor Bears on the road taking on the suddenly struggling UConn Huskies in Storrs, Connecticut here tonight. So needless to say, a huge night in college basketball. We'll start breaking down these games for you coming up. I'm Joe Ranieri. Appreciate you stopping by here on the Sports Grid Network. We also have a big week, week 14 in college. In the NFL. In fact, we got a big game coming up tomorrow night to kick it all off. Little Thursday night action, and who doesn't love any time that we can get a Thursday night football game that features, well, 2 of the best teams in the NFL, the Lions at Ford Field hosting the Green Bay Packers. Looking very forward to this game tomorrow night. Lions, a little more than a field goal favorite here. We did see this game, of course, back in October, and it was a Jordan Love pick 6 that really was the difference in that game. It was a game, of course, that the Lions won and covered, and now the Packers, maybe a little bit different version of the Packers. Definitely a little healthier, Jordan Love, than what we got in the first game. But a lot on the line there as the Packers coming in 9-3, the Lions 11-1 on the season. We got a lot to discuss in this Week 14 of the NFL slate. And, of course, it is the final week of the college football regular season. Can you believe it? We have gotten here finally, and that means it is conference championship week, which means we've got a whole lot of college football still, not just this weekend, but the college football playoff rankings were released yesterday. And boy, oh boy, a lot of head scratching going on as guess who is lurking around waiting for the outcome of the ACC championship game. If you guessed the Alabama Crimson Tide, you are correct. And Nick Saban, not even in the building. So we can't blame the Nick Saban effect here. Maybe it's the Kalen DeBoer effect, or maybe it's that Alabama football is likely to make more money for the networks and for the schools and for the sponsors than really pretty much, I don't know, a team like SMU. The problem is Alabama's going to need SMU to win that game against Clemson, because as they sit right around that 12-13 spot, they need Clemson not to win, because if Clemson wins, SMU is already ranked high enough where they're going to make it. And that means that Clemson will have to make it then as the champion of the ACC, which means, sorry, a 3-loss Alabama team will not make the college football top 12 playoff. But if SMU holds serve, they're already ranked in the top 12. They will make it, which means, that's right, all of Alabama will be rooting for SMU here, as Crimson Tide Nation got a lot on the line here in a game they're not even playing in. Maybe with a little bit of luck, Alabama will get it done. But what a game that I think is going to be with Clemson and SMU. Maybe the least bet game so far from what we see across the board in the marketplace. That might all change, of course, as we get a little bit closer to kickoff. But I can tell you this, there may be no bigger game on the board than that one there as far as playoff seeding goes and actually making it. So will Dabo Swinney do the unthinkable and make it from getting absolutely boat raced in the first game against Georgia, losing a couple of games they probably shouldn't have lost, but ultimately they control their own destiny. You beat SMU, you win the ACC, and you are in the first 12-team college football playoff. I would love somebody to explain to me how it is we're going to get less than 56.5 points in that game. I think it's going to be one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. And it'll all kick off with 3 games on Friday. Don't forget the American Athletic Conference with Army taking on Tulane. That should be a whole lot of fun, keeping tabs on that. And don't forget, we got plenty of NBA action going on tonight. We only got 4 games in the NHL, but we do have some interesting matchups there, and we'll talk to our good friend coming up here, George Kurtz, who will lay it out as Boston and Chicago are going to drop the puck in about an hour. You got Nashville and Toronto, Dallas and the Kings, and the late game will be Vegas taking on Anaheim. NBA tonight, handful of games, some interesting back-to-back spots. Boston getting ready to take on Detroit, Indy taking on Brooklyn, Miami hosting the Lakers. This is going to be an interesting one, as LeBron James catching an awful lot of heat for maybe losing to Father Time right now. And boy, what's what happens when that clock turns 40? It's kind of hard to be playing in an 82-game schedule in an NBA season. And the play of LeBron has certainly not been what we are used to. Now, the good news is they're taking on a Miami team that is barely 500, not 500, in fact, and plays less than a 500 team. Will Jimmy play? Will Jimmy not play? Those are some of the questions we're looking at. And then, of course, Orlando, who got boat raced by the Knicks last night. They're going to try to get back on track against the Philadelphia Sixers. Atlanta, all of a sudden, folks just discounting Atlanta, but Atlanta, over the last couple of weeks, got very healthy. And they have the team that they thought they would have originally to start the year. And they are good. There is no mistaking. The Atlanta Hawks are a very good team. They'll take on a Milwaukee Bucks team who also got pretty good, got pretty healthy, smoked Detroit last night, 128 to 107 in that NBA Cup action. They secured a 4-0 record in the tournament, and now the Milwaukee Bucks are advancing here to the quarterfinals. And then Minnesota, who has not had the kind of start to the season that they had hoped they would get, they are going to take on the LA Clippers, who once again handled their business last night in a big way. Now the Minnesota Timberwolves, though, not home, on the road. They have had some struggles, though. The Clippers in Inglewood, California, are going to try to limit them as best as possible. Clippers 127-105 victory over Portland last night. No Norman Powell here tonight, though, which is always a problem for the Clippers and their scoring chances. Boy, does that feel like an under in a big, big way. But we'll talk plenty of NBA, getting ready for tip-off in what is a monster college basketball night. We have got you covered as Game Time Decisions continues here on The Grid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on Sports Grid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Ranieri. Certainly appreciate you stopping by here. First Wednesday of December, the final month of the year. We've got plenty going on across the board here as we await Week 14 of the NFL season to kick off tomorrow. We're in the midst of a pretty interesting NHL season thus far, and joining us here tonight on this light slate, but some interesting games, is George Kurtz, our good friend here, to talk about some of these matchups here tonight, Kurtz, and welcome in, my man. It's been an interesting start to the NHL season. A lot of, it feels like a lot of streaky teams. They win a bunch of games, they lose a bunch of games. There's not a lot of consistency so far, but we do have a couple of games here tonight, like the Bruins and the Blackhawks. That two teams, I mean, how do you even bet the Blackhawks at this point after what, 8 wins now? Or actually, I guess if you're going to bet the Bruins, you got to think things are going to turn around after the Montgomery situation. But really, the Blackhawks, is that who I'm betting here tonight?
Betting the Blackhawks, I mean, they're a little bit a better bet now than they were, let's say, 3 weeks ago. Connor Bedard is scoring, right? Taylor Hall's found his game a little bit here. So I think we can feel a little bit better about it. The Bruins, Joe, you mentioned, since they fired the head coach, right? They have gotten a new head coach bump, all right? They're playing better. This is not the Bruins of, let's say, 2-3 years ago who were a Stanley Cup contender. They're a good team. You know, Pasternak, Marchand, McAvoy. You still have the good goaltending there, but they're not quite the team they were. And now we're 2 months in, all right? Things should be settled now. You know, so we're still waiting for the Bruins to become the Bruins here. I don't think they're a playoff team this year. That being said, I think if you're going to bet the game tonight, if you bet the Blackhawks, you're probably just thinking, I just want the plus money, right? That sort of thing. The Bruins are better. You're only laying minus 144 with the Bruins here. I can't lay up the goal line. I'm not going plus 172. I'm going with the Bruins. They have been playing better. Give me the Bruins over the Blackhawks.
Oh, all right. Liking it. The Blackhawks are rested here. We'll see what if that means anything here. But what are we looking at with Nashville here and the Toronto Maple Leafs in this one? I don't know what to make of the Predators here. I really don't so far this season. What do you think we're going to get from them in this spot here? You know, Barry Trotz has got to be pulling his hair out at this point.
Yeah, I don't think Barry has much hair to pull out, but you're
That's
right.
a good point.
With the Nashville Predators, I mean, you're probably talking, Joe, about the most disappointing team in the NHL today here, or certainly top 3. We thought with moves they made, they signed Stamkos, signed Marchessault, right? Oh, my God, 2 players like that, and you were already a good team. Not to mention the trade you made, a trade the young goaltender, Scott off to San Jose for a boatload of draft picks. You were sort of setting yourself up, not only for this season, but for the future as well. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. I mean, it could just be, Joe, that, hey, it takes teams or players time to gel. You know, Marchessault goes from Vegas to Nashville, Stamkos, Tampa Bay to Nashville. You know, you got to upend things and family and all like that and all that. So I could see it taking a toll, but it's been too long. I mean, they're 7, 12, and 6, second to last in their division. You know, that's not what we expected here. It's not over for them, but keep in mind, by the way, if you're betting on futures, about 75% of the teams that are in a playoff position on American Thanksgiving stay in that position, stay in the playoffs. So only, like I said, 1 of every 4 teams that's out of the playoffs is going to make the playoffs. They weren't in it as of last Thursday. Nashville wasn't in it. Are they going to be one of those teams? Maybe, but they play in a very tough division here. You got Colorado, who's also disappointed with playing better now. Dallas, Winnipeg, Minnesota. St. Louis and Utah is ahead of them as well. So, no, it's hard for me to like them for whatever way they're playing here. I'm going to go with Toronto tonight. Shocking, I know here. They're playing better. They're at home. Austin Matthews is back. Scored a goal the other night. I think he gets on the board again tonight. I think Stamkos scores tonight as well, by the way. He's from Toronto. Right? That's where he was born. So he's going back home in a way here. So I'm going to play Austin Matthews and Stamkos anytime goal.
Yeah, well, I got to figure something out here, Nashville. This will be, I believe, their only game north of the border here in Toronto. So we'll see if it makes a difference. But you mentioned it, Leafs winners 6 of their last 7. That puck line number isn't that bad here. If you think it's going to get ugly in a hurry up there, Kurtz, that'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But what are we thinking about with Dallas and L.A.? Another interesting game, since this will be the Stars' 3rd game in 4 days. The Kings, I think, have had 2 days of rest now. They were swept, though, in that season series last year. They lost all 3 matchups. You got to figure they don't want to lose another game here to Dallas, but can they actually win this game? What do you think?
I think they can for the reason you mentioned here. All right, it is their 3rd game in 4 nights for the Stars. I mean, they're playing well. It's a very good team. They did get some bad news earlier today. Seguin Top 6
Oh,
forward,
yeah.
sometimes second line center, sometimes not. He's out 4 to 6 months. Hip surgery. Listen, this is hockey. Hockey goes on forever, so he may not be out for the year, but 4 months puts us into March. 6 months puts you into the playoffs. So maybe he returns, maybe he does, depending on how deep a run they make it to the playoffs. But that's a loss for them. So let's see how they overcome that. But it's not a significant loss. It's not. You didn't lose Hintz, you didn't lose Robertson, one of your top players. You lose Seguin, a good player, helps the team, but they should be able to get by it. I'm going to go with the Kings tonight. I'm going to go with the rested team, and the Kings are not a bad team. Don't get me wrong. If everything was even, the Stars are a better team. All right, but the Kings, they're not a bad team. It's a good, solid team here. Ridge going to be in that tonight. He's played well. Give me the Kings over the Stars. Don't love it, but I'm going to take the rested team over the tired team.
Yeah, Seguin too. You mentioned it. 20 points in 19 games. Pretty big situation there. Dallas, by the way, a puck differential of plus 56 on the season. My goodness. Interesting here, but they just lost 20 points with Seguin there going down. That game feels very trappish here for Dallas, but so does the other late game, Kurtz, because off a big win last night, right, against Edmonton, what are we going to get from them here tonight against Anaheim here? It kind of feels a little trappy here for Vegas. What are you thinking we're going to get?
Well, it's definitely trappy. And Anaheim, by the way, you got to hand it to the Southern San Jose, Southern California. I don't even know. I don't think San Jose is Southern California, but San Jose, Anaheim, 2 afterthoughts in the past NHL seasons. They're much better this year. They're not playing.
Oh man,
you wrong, but they're not also Rams anymore, right? They're not bad. So I'm still on Vegas, mind you, but not an automatic.
All right, well, stay there, Kurtz. We'll be back here after this on Game Time Decisions.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Ranieri alongside George Kurtz. And George, let's pick it up from that Vegas and Anaheim game coming up tonight on the ice, 10 o'clock Eastern time. That puck will drop. Definitely a trappy game given what Vegas did last night. Great home win over Edmonton. Aiden Hill was in goal last night. I don't think he's going here tonight, but Anaheim, to your point, you said it seems like Anaheim and San Jose last season were automatic fades. Not with Gibson now, and not with this Anaheim team. So it feels like if I can get 1.5 with Anaheim, maybe not be a bad look in this one.
I don't think it's a bad look at all. Normally, Joe, we like to pick on teams playing on the second half of back-to-back nights versus a team that didn't play last night, right? Because they have fresher legs. And Anaheim's a young team anyway. Now, listen, that was a big win for Vegas last night. You beat the Edmonton Oilers 1-0, and that goal held up by Barbashev early. So it's a huge win for Anaheim, who would have trouble starting games, right? They weren't playing well in the first period. And that's why I bet the Edmonton Oilers to win the first period last night. That didn't go well. Also had the over. I hated that game last night, come to think of it. But that was the breaks here. I do like Anaheim tonight, though. Like I said, this is not a terrible team here. They're not going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. It's a stacked Western Conference here. But this is not this is not an also-ran team. They're a 500 team right now. Think about it. They're 10-3. 500, last place. I mean, that's just the way it is right now. So I think they'll take care of business tonight. I would probably feel differently if Aiden Hill was going to be the goaltender, but as you said, it's expected to be Samsonov. I doubt they're going to play Hill back-to-back nights, so it will be Samsonov. They get a little weaker in net here. Gibson has been named the starter for Anaheim, and by the way, I wonder if Gibson will be playing for another team in a couple of months because. As much as I like Anaheim, he's not going to be with Anaheim when this team gets, truly is a playoff contender. You're on the back end of his career here. You should be trading him maybe to a Colorado team, someone like that steps for a goaltender and get some future assets.
So let's talk already at this point in the season. It's been an interesting start so far here. And, I'm looking at some of the power ratings here. Are you thinking Minnesota is the best team in the NHL right now? Because a lot of people have them rated and ranked. Them and the Devils are the two best teams in the NHL. Is that how you're seeing it right now?
Well, until someone beats Florida, they're the best team in the NHL. All right, they've gone to back-to-back cups. They won last year. That's a team no one wants to play in the playoffs because they are built for a 7-game series to just beat the snot out of you and make you not want to play hockey anymore. It's what they do. All right, so until someone beats them, they're the best team in the NHL. Minnesota, I said Nashville's their biggest disappointment. They might be the biggest surprise. Not that they're in the playoff picture. We thought, okay, they'll be in the wild card hunt, but that they're playing so well. I mean, Gustafsson playing lights out in net that we just didn't see coming. We know Kaprizov. He's probably the best player no one talks about in the NHL, right? We all talk about, your Kucherov, your McDavid, your Draisaitl, Matthews, McKinnon, could go on, but no one mentions Kaprizov. This guy's fantastic, utterly fantastic, having a fantastic season. Certainly could win the MVP award there. Do I think they're the best team in the NHL? No, probably not. Do I think they're better than we thought they'd be? Yeah, immensely so here. They did suffer a loss today, Joe. Eriksson Ek, he's out, their center, and that's a huge loss. He's their top line center. That's going to be a big loss for them. He's going to be out, I think, for quite a bit here. So how they cover for that will be interesting. Remember, last week they traded a whole bunch of draft picks to get a top defenseman. That came out of a draft, I think, 2 years ago. I don't mind the trade. That's going to help on defense, but now you don't have those assets to go get another center.
Who's the most disappointing team so far here? I know a lot of people looking at the Rangers right now and going, so the Rangers were rolling early in the season, and then it feels like they've cratered here. 1-7 in their last 8. What's going on here, Kurtz?
That's a fair question. And you live in New York here. I mean, we're waiting for the big change. Is there going to be a trade, a release? What's going to happen here? Because the Rangers are cratering.
Really?
They're not playing well. Their team defense is god-awful. It's not a defenseman that's awful. I'm not blaming Fox or Trouba or Miller, but as a team, awful. You watch these games, there's 2-on-1s right off the bat. It's like they had no idea how to cover for anybody. A defenseman chips in. Why is the center not covering? Why is a wing not covering? They're not playing team. And it's killing them right now because they're leaving Shesterkin out to dry here. So a lot of problems with the Rangers right now. Eastern Conference, it probably is the Rangers, although they're still just about in the playoff spot. So that hasn't hurt them yet. They think off to a hot start. Western Conference, we already talked about it. It's definitely Nashville.
Yeah, disgusting here by both those franchises. Kurtz, appreciate it as always, my man. Enjoy the games, game time decisions. We'll be back after this here on The Grid.
the sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. You picked your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Ranieri, joined by our good friend Adam Kaufman, as we have a loaded slate here in college basketball. Well, we got a pretty good slate here in the NBA as well. And Adam, every time we talk, love to get your thoughts on your Boston Celtics here, that it feels like every time we talk, they're laying 20 points against somebody here, and they're laying a big number again tonight. But I guess it makes sense given the fact Detroit just got bulldozed by Milwaukee last night here. What do you think we're going to get in this one from Boston, who I believe last game had a couple of very key guys out, didn't really make a darn bit of difference here, but is it going to matter tonight to them?
I think it will, because one of those guys who did play last game but is not playing tonight is Jason Tatum. Tatum, of course, the All-Star, one of the faces of the NBA, an MVP contender. He is out, so is Drew Holiday. So you're talking about two of the team's top 6 players anyway who are not going to be available. And this is kind of what Boston's lineup has been over the last few games. We've seen Jaylen Brown sit. We've seen, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White. They have missed time. Tonight, it's, these guys' turn. And it's not a good team on the other side. We know that, the Detroit Pistons. That being said, Pistons are fully healthy. And so with Cade Cunningham and company available in that one, and now the Celtics shorthanded by their standards, Boston should still win, obviously, but we've seen it reflect in the number. At one point earlier today, it was Boston minus 14.5. The injury news, it's come down to 12. I'm not as comfortable laying the number with Boston given the absence of Tatum. Would I be at all surprised if the Celtics still cover it? No, I wouldn't. Jaylen Brown missed last game, probably goes out, scores 25 plus. I mean, the guy that really we should be investing in tonight, though, if we're being honest with ourselves, is Peyton Pritchard, the 6th man of the year, as far as I'm concerned. This dude has scored, I think, 25 plus points off the bench in 4 straight games, I believe it is, or in that vicinity anyway. And he is absolutely going to be, well, a secondary option, a guy who is going to get his opportunities, his volume of shots, and his player prop is sitting only at 16.5 when I was looking at it just a little while ago. So I do like Boston to win if you're thinking about, a money line parlay of favorites or whatever it is. I wouldn't necessarily lay the number. In fact, if you want to get cute, maybe hold your nose and, hope for the best. Maybe even take the Pistons with the number and think that they're going to keep a close game. Again, that's probably, I'm not investing in a side one way or the other. That's probably the way I would do it. But I do love Pritchard's over. I like Brown's over. I'd consider Kristaps Porzingis at 20 plus points on an alt line as well. The scoring's got to come from somewhere, Joe.
Right. And it was funny because I'm looking at this going, they've really ratcheted up the defense, Boston, too. And I don't know what the Detroit team total is, but I don't think they get it. I just don't think they get there here tonight on the second of a back-to-back after Milwaukee kind of bulldozed them last night. The Knicks absolutely ran over a pretty good Orlando team, or at least was a pretty good team, but they didn't need to win that in order to advance in the NBA Cup last night. The point differential did it for them already. But what do you think now they go to Philadelphia to take on, struggling? Is that a good enough word for Philadelphia? What do you think? Or though they did win their last two games against YMCA teams. So what do you think?
Yeah, struggling's one word. I'll give you another S word. Sucky. Since I can't curse here, we'll just go with that. Look, Philly is bad, and you couple that, Joe, with the fact that Joel Embiid's out, Paul George is out, Andre Drummond is out. Like, it's the Jared McCain show tonight. That's the guy that we should be investing in overs on. It's still at a pretty modest sub 20 prop. Maybe alt him up 25 points. 30 points, dare to dream. I don't even know that Tyrese Maxey is necessarily someone that goes crazy tonight. I think, you look at some of these recent opportunities when they've been shorthanded. Again, McCain has gone off. How many times on this show in your history have you said the name Guerschon Yabusele? How about Yabu with a double-double? This dude went over his rebound prop yesterday comfortably with no Drummond and no Embiid. I think he does it again. And it's still sitting at 6.5, 7.5. I'd go over on him. I don't know if the points are going to get there if you're hesitant about the double-double, but I would chase the rebounds on Yabusele. And ultimately, though, I think the Magic are going to win. I got a little ahead of this last night when it was sitting at -2.5, and that's when I invested in Orlando. It's 5.5 now. Even still, I like it, despite it being the back-to-back, and it's a back-to-back for both these teams, obviously. But I think, despite travel, whatever else, it's a good bounce back spot because, like you said, Orlando is a good team. Think about what they've been doing without Paolo Banchero. I mean, they have won now 12 of 14 with last night's blemish, a game that, it was, I think, a 15-point final, but ultimately they were really never in it. They were down by almost 40 points at one point. The only reason the Wagners and some of the other starters like Suggs stayed in as long as they did is because, for whatever godforsaken reason, this team actually does care about the NBA Cup and potentially winning this in-season tournament. And so they did want to stay ahead of the point differential and not fall out so that Boston jumped in, which is what would have happened if this thing had stayed as ugly as it was in the middle of that game. But I like it as a bounce-back spot for the Magic, again, against a bad team there in Philadelphia.
Speaking of bad, it's not been a great couple of weeks here for the Lake Show, has it? I mean, LeBron's having to answer all sorts of questions about Father Time now. What are they, 2-5 straight up in the last 7? They were beaten by 19 points or more 3 times over these last 7. I mean, it has not gone good. Why? Because where's the shooting coming from? Reeves was hurt, and LeBron couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. This feels like an under game to me against Miami. Jimmy, who's nursing the knee, I believe, is going to go here tonight, but I couldn't sweat out an over in this game. Could you?
No, in fact, again, CLV, closing line value, can be your friend if you look at this stuff the night before and you sort of anticipate where the news is going and injury absences and the like. I got in at under 219.5, and I think it's at 216. That's what I was looking at a little bit earlier. And I probably still consider the under in this spot. To your point, Jimmy Butler is going to play. He's not 100%. Although, if we're thinking about trends to pay attention to, how about this one for Jimmy Butler? And I'm stealing this from my radio partner. He pointed it out to me earlier. I thought it was a great look. Going over on 27.5 PRA, points, rebounds, assists for Jimmy Butler. This is something that he has hit now in 8 of 9 against the Lakers since joining the Heat. Only game that he missed it was because he only played 12 minutes in that game and then left with an injury. So he is consistently reaching basically 30-plus PRA opposite LA. And on the flip side of that, you mentioned the struggles for LeBron James, and what a dad showing his kid what human looks like on the floor, because he is over his last 19 from 3, which is unthinkable. But you mentioned Austin Reeves. He is not playing in this game. And so LeBron, Anthony Davis, obviously, these two guys, incredibly inconsistent lately offensively, as you alluded to. Just when I was getting ready to, praise JJ Redick up and down on the job he was doing as a head coach, they start to hit the skids. Yeah. But again, for LeBron, there's a little bit of narrative street in there too, in his return to Miami, which obviously he has done multiple times since joining the Lakers a half dozen years ago. But 25-plus points, all 6 road games at Miami since joining the Lakers. He loves being back there. I think this is it's a buy low spot for LeBron too. Earlier in the season, when he was putting up all those triple doubles and gaudy numbers, his points line was 25.5, 26.5. It's down to 20.5, 21.5 right now. Yeah. I'd take it. I'd go over. I think LeBron responds in the return to South Beach.
Buy low, right? That's what we're always looking to do here. He certainly has a big-time comfort level in this place. So should be an interesting one there tonight. We got plenty of college hoops. We'll talk about a game that you like there, Adam, when Game Time Decisions continues next on The Grid.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on this Wednesday here, December the 4th. We are off and running Great slate of games here tonight. Plenty in college basketball. Adam Kaufman joining us here again. We just talked about some of these games coming up in the NBA. I did have one more game, Adam. I'm wondering where you see these two teams now, and that being because to me, Indiana is in bad shape. But it's not that I want to play Indiana, but how in the hell do you play the Brooklyn Nets, who have absolutely nobody available to them? You got to figure the desperation here of this Indiana team, who's got really no excuses against this Nets team. Yes, they played last night, but they lost again. And it's not going well for Rick Carlisle in Indiana, but they're a much deeper team than what Brooklyn's got to roll out there right now with everybody hurt. It's kind of hard not to want to back Indiana to get off the snide tonight.
No, I tend to agree with you, especially with Brooklyn a little bit shorthanded. There's no Williams, there's no Thomas.
Nope.
Johnson is going to play, so that's obviously significant, on the Brooklyn side of things. But Indiana, I think they're just perplexing, right? Even when they are healthy, guys can't seem to figure. Like it's been a real down year for Tyrese Halliburton, to the point where he's become like a meme on social media. People are just, anytime the guy fails to hit his assist prop, even though he is, consistently at a low number. I realize that people aren't going to get excited by 4 or 5 assists for Tyrese Halliburton when the expectation is 9, 10, 11 every single day. But you can sort of bottom out some of these lower leg achievements and put those together and make a builder out of him, that type of thing. They're like, you're consistently getting, like I said, 4 or 5 assists out of Halliburton. You're consistently getting 10 plus points out of Siakam. Some of these guys, it's just, it is hard. It's hard to find the consistency in the Pacers under Carlisle for whatever reason, because this is a team that, played well last year. They go on a good playoff run. They, ultimately were swept out of the playoffs by the Celtics, but it was a tightly contested sweep, if you want to view it that way. Like every game came down to the wire. It wasn't like, they were abused out there the way the Mavericks were by Boston in the finals. They put up a fight. And I think a lot of people came into this year expecting, okay, this is going to be a team to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. And there have been some injuries, like we've seen Nembhard miss time, and some of these guys. Mathurin's taken on a larger role, which is good. I think he's a good player. But you're right, on a game-to-game basis, they're a little unpredictable.
It's kind of ridiculous, and they're terrible on the road. What happened to this team? They were so much fun. They're 2-10 on the road this year, and they're at the Barclay here tonight. But they got to start feeling some pressure here after losing 3 straight by double digits, no less. So that's the other game going on here tonight. Interesting slate in college hoops.
Real quick before we get to college, though, what do you make of this? I'm fascinated by this Clippers Timberwolves late night game. The Clips obviously back to back. They played last night. Obviously, there's no Powell. He's out. Harden's put up good numbers, but doesn't this feel like a good answer spot for to take the Clips money line, take the Clips with the points? That you want to talk about a team with inconsistency. How about Anthony Edwards Timberwolves? The team that everyone just wanted to pencil into the finals last year before they got knocked out by the Mavericks. This team is super up and down.
This is another one of these games. How am I not taking the under in this game? I've got, both teams now in a spot. I got the Clippers off a back-to-back, and one of their leading scorers here, Norm Powell, you mentioned, not playing here. And while they have not necessarily gelled Minnesota offensively, once you took Cat out of the rotation, they've been trying to kind of figure it out there. But I'll tell you what, looks like they've actually figured out defensively and putting the effort in that. So, they're only allowing about 86 points a game here over the last couple. The Clippers are not going to run up and down the court. It does kind of feel like we should be looking at an under here because Minnesota's got to show us something. I'm with you here. You got to be able to go on the road. Hasn't been going great, although I got to tell you that was a pretty good win against the Lakers there the other night. But, you got to travel now. Let's see what you got here tonight. It feels like a 108-102 kind of game, right? Somewhere in that ballpark there, if we're lucky. Or I do like Minnesota, the effort they're putting in defensively here. I would almost look to maybe even fade the Clippers team total, because what kind of, after scoring 100, when do the Clippers score 120, almost 130 points outside of playing a G League team in Portland? They got to be exhausted running up and down the court that fast. That is not how they do it there. Tell me what we're doing with Michigan State here tonight. Laying a decent number, what, 5.5 against Minnesota? Is that what we got now?
There's still some 4.5s out there. That's where I bought in. You can still get there, but you're right. There are some 5.5s out there as well. And I did lay the number with Michigan State, and I think it'll be sweaty. It's, it's not like this is a bad Minnesota team on the other side. It's just, you look at, again, Minnesota has been awful at covering spreads this year. Michigan State has taken 8 out of the last 10 meetings, going back, obviously, several years. Yep. And also just Michigan State's kind of been tested of late. We've seen some early season meetings already with Memphis and North Carolina and Colorado and some of these squads. Minnesota has had sort of a lighter schedule out of the chute. And then you work in just the general belief that seems to exist out there that if Michigan State, if the Spartans really do have aspirations to win the Big Ten, this is a game you kind of have to take. And so I think there'll be kind of an urgency factor to it. So yeah, it again might be sweaty, but I laid the points with the Spartans.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that look either here. There's a lot of games on here tonight. By the way, Baylor on a 12-2 run right now, who has kind of pulling away here from UConn, but 19-8, still got 12 minutes to go there. And Adam, it should be a heck of a night. College hoops, NBA action. We got to get ready, of course, with a big game to kick off Week 14 in the NFL tomorrow. Yeah. Thanks for the time, man. Enjoy the games. Game time decisions. We'll be back after this.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Picked your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday. I'm Joe Ranieri. Appreciate you stopping by as we got 56 college basketball games getting ready to go here tonight. Couple underway right now, and I'm talking some big-time games with some blue blood programs. Going to be a great night. Why? Well, listen, Feast Week is over with. These individual tournaments that you get to play, cross country with a bunch of teams you might not usually see during the year. Those are coming quick, getting into what is always my favorite time of year when we start dealing with conference play. We had some great games yesterday. Anybody catch Michigan and Wisconsin? With all of a sudden Michigan under Dusty May, the former FAU Owls head coach, brings over his big man there to Michigan, and they go into a hostile environment there in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin have been boat racing people, and guess what? Yep, Michigan gets it done late there. So Dusty May already paying dividends as the new head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, getting their first Big Ten victory there. Tonight, you've got other great matchups coming up. I mean, currently right now, you've got the Baylor Bears on the road in Stores taking on the newly acquired UConn Huskies here. And boy, oh boy, big run now by UConn to get back into this thing, 21-20 with about 9 minutes to go in the first half. UConn, 24 straight wins at home. We're talking about a two-time defending national champs here, and they didn't have a good stretch there in Maui, but quite honestly, if you drop me off in Maui for a week, I probably wouldn't play all that well either. So they are at home, they are comfortable, and they have a lunatic for a head coach. Should make for a very must-watch television in that one. Also, Big Ten battle going on. Well, it's not much of a battle. Maryland is boat racing Ohio State right now. 9 minutes to go. They're up 25-9 in that game. But I'm looking forward to some of these games coming up a little bit later here tonight. Look at the total with North Carolina. This whole SEC versus ACC matchup right now that we have. Did anybody see how well the ACC did last night? Yeah, let me help you. They won 1 of 9. They were 1-9, the ACC, against SEC teams last night. Outside of Clemson winning at home against Kentucky, which, quite honestly, seemed to be the right side to begin with, as they were a slight dog in that one. But Clemson's an elite defensive team here, and that was the most physical team Kentucky has seen. But outside of that, the ACC is atrocious. And, well, they're going to have to show something here tonight, especially when it comes to Alabama taking on North Carolina. North Carolina, if they are the last hope here, them and Duke, who also is taking on Auburn at Cameron Indoor, if tonight we start seeing the ACC rolling, the SEC rolling the ACC again, my goodness, folks. How the mighty have fallen. The ACC not showing up and showing out. Miami is atrocious. They lost again last night. They can't beat anybody. They can't play any defense either. But those two games here tonight, I think, are going to be very interesting. Auburn, who many of us believe, if you've been watching, Auburn's the best team in the country. I don't even think it's close, actually. It's not UConn, not yet. I think Auburn and Bruce Pearl are more than capable of going to Cameron Indoor and beating Duke. I think that's going to be a fantastic matchup here. Another spot where, man, if the SEC shows up and goes to Cameron Indoor and wins, look out. But the total in that North Carolina and Alabama game is hilarious. We're talking about almost 180 points they're anticipating here. I think the total's up to 176, 177 in this Alabama game here, with North Carolina at home, a slight favorite in this one here. But what a huge, and I mean huge, total for a game where, listen, Alabama is not even shooting threes well. They haven't been good at all so far this year. So I do think UNC is going to show up and show out. Both teams love to run. That should be maybe the most entertaining game of the night. But I think it's also an important one for somebody in the ACC to stand up tonight and say enough is enough. Stop getting bullied by the SEC. We'll see if anybody can do it as we get ready for another hour of Game Time Decisions here on The Grid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in another hour of Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Ranieri. Happy Wednesday to you as December is here. Just about 3.5 weeks left in 2024. And boy, what a way to end the year in the world of sports as we've got all sorts of college basketball in full swing. Some great games coming up here tonight and this weekend. Baylor and UConn going at it right now in Storrs, Connecticut. There, Baylor up 23-20 with about 7.5 to go in the first half. The whole ACC-SEC challenge in full effect as we saw the SEC just own the ACC last night. 9-1 the SEC went. If it wasn't for Clemson beating Kentucky, boy, they'd have gotten shut out. It would have been a perfect 10-0 sweep by the SEC. But tonight, I think it might go a little more difficult here for these SEC teams. Auburn at Cameron Indoor taking on Duke coming up later, and then Alabama just down the road taking on North Carolina in a total that is laughable at 174.5. And I think it's even been bet up higher now to close to 176 and a half. So expecting some fireworks in that game, but my goodness, what a night in college basketball we have. We've got plenty of games in the NBA as the group stage of the NBA Cup is now come and gone, and the quarterfinals is what is going to be next on tap. But in the meantime, Plenty of games coming up here tonight, bottom of the hour, in fact, which is when we'll see Detroit and the Celtics go at it at TD Garden there in Boston. The Pacers, we talked about them a little bit earlier with Adam Kaufman. Not good. Not a great start to the season. 3 consecutive losses by double digits. They're at the Barclays Center. They got absolutely smoked by Toronto last night. Second of a back-to-back, but the Nets have been shorthanded. And no Cam Thomas. Very hard for me to look at this Nets team to think that they have enough scoring power. Pacers have the depth. They certainly have the shooting. I think this is kind of a situation in which I think there's going to be some urgency on this Pacers team here tonight. I'd be looking to back them in this spot. And then, of course, the Miami Heat, welcome back. LeBron James, rocking chair and all. Looks like the Heat laying about 3.5 now as the money is rolling in on Miami. And I could only believe that is because one Jimmy Butler is going to be going for the Miami Heat here tonight, as he missed the last game for them, but he is listed as probable with Jovic and Kevin Love. Austin Reeves out again for the Lakers, and it has not been a good stretch here. The last 7-8 games for them, only 2 wins, multiple losses by double digits. LeBron James not able to hit water if he fell out of a boat. I would also keep a close eye on this Hawks and Bucks game. I think there's plenty of value here on the Milwaukee Bucks here tonight. Why? Well, Milwaukee did what they needed to do last night, finished off a perfect 4-0 run in the NBA Cup. And now, of course, but you beat Detroit. So let's not get crazy here. And the reason why I think Atlanta is still undervalued is Atlanta has gotten very healthy over the last week and a half. And the market hasn't fully adjusted on them just yet. And call me crazy. I think there's some value here in this game, looking at backing the Atlanta Hawks, getting, I don't know, what about, looks about 4.5 right now, maybe even 5. No doubt, Milwaukee playing much better than how it all started in the beginning of the year, but I would keep an eye on this. I do think that Atlanta has plenty of value with this team as constructed, that everyone still thinks is the Atlanta Hawks. Oh, they don't play any defense. They're no good. Well, look at them over the last week and a half. They've done a great, great job. Why? Because they got their scoring and their top defenders back in that lineup. I never like Lillard and Giannis and Doc Rivers on the second of a back-to-back. I do think the Hawks have plenty of value in this game here tonight. That is coming up the top of next hour. And then, of course, we've got NFL Week 14 coming up, kicking off tomorrow night with a big one, right? You got Green Bay taking on Detroit. And that is how we're going to kick off the Week 14 slate in a rematch of a game we saw back in, I believe it was early on, if I'm not mistaken, back in October. We had seen this game. The Packers, unfortunately, did not win that game. And I remember that because I was actually on the Packers. What we did get was a backbreaking Jordan Love pick 6 in the second quarter in that game, and that was really what turned it, as the Lions were able to take advantage 24-14. They were on the road. That was in Lambeau, but Green Bay outgained Detroit. They had more first downs. They had more total yards. They had more yards per play. However, Detroit didn't lose the turnover margin, and that was really the difference there. I believe Romeo Doubs poised to make his return tomorrow after missing last week's game with a concussion. Jordan Love, who, when they played the first go-around, had a groin injury, if you remember, and his mobility was certainly compromised. He seems to be getting closer to 100%. And to me, My big question with Detroit, and by the way, both teams have had a little bit of time here because they played on Thanksgiving. My question here with Detroit is how many more defensive injuries can they sustain here, especially in the front seven? Aiden Hutchinson out, Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, Kyle Pecco already out. Awunzie, you got Paschal, DJ Reader, all questionable for this game. Not to mention they lost their captain, their linebacker, Alex Anzalone, has already been put on IR. Malcolm Rodriguez, who was supposed to be his replacement, tore his ACL last week. So, I mean, that is a ton of defensive injuries for key guys on this Lions team that, prior to those injuries, was elite when it came to stopping the run. I don't know that they're going to be elite anymore. And I can tell you this, the way Josh Jacobs has been running for Green Bay, I would expect a lot of Josh Jacobs, and I would expect some of those warts to grow pretty big here for the Detroit team on that side of the ball. Now, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I want to play keep away as much as possible because the less that Detroit offense is on the field, the better it is. But LaFleur, keep in mind, one of the most profitable coaches as an underdog in his career. 24-12 against the number, 20-16 straight up as a dog as well. I think if you can still get that hook, if it's available at 3.5, I think that's a play. But you'd be crazy not to sprinkle a little something on that money line as well, because I do believe the Packers are a live dog to win that game outright tomorrow night to kick off Week 14 in the NFL. We got much more on that when Game Time Decisions continues.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on Sports Grid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all week long. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take the room.
Pro Football Today, only on Sports Grid.
Speaking of hey, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. It is a honor, and one of my favorite parts of the day is we get to hang out with our good friend Colby Dant, talking about bird life, wildlife, any sort of sea animal. Colby is the man, loves his National Geographic, and we love his college basketball knowledge. And let's start there, Colby. Pleasure to see you, brother. I've been going at it with the producers here. I took UConn here tonight. They're on Baylor. It is a coin flip if I've seen it. That's the way it's playing out right now here. It's kind of hard to go against UConn at home, I thought. And I get it, no Caravan, but doesn't look like Baylor's got their full complement either. How did you approach this game?
Yeah, my thing is, like, I just thought UConn has just looked awful this year. So, which is rare. This is like a California condor in the wild where you get eyes on it. You know what I mean? So, I think this is an opportunity to jump on Baylor here, mainly just because I think they're more athletic right now. I think UConn, as much as Danny Hurley's a good coach, and I'm sure as he continues to whine, he'll get more calls. That was my favorite from the presser in Hawaii. He was like, we won back-to-back championships. How are we not getting more calls? You got to be good. And I feel like those two teams were fire. And this year's team, I thought they kind of struck out a little bit in the portal some. So I went with the more athletic team. I know Baylor's a little more battle-tested, too. Baylor's already played at Gonzaga and took on St. John's, took on a slew of other teams. So I just went with the team that I thought was a little more battle-tested and also just more talented this year. I think Baylor's just a better roster.
Going to be interesting. I usually don't like to bet on Coach Drew there until January because he usually figures it out right after the turn of the year, and then Baylor is always a bet on spot here. But it's interesting. We were talking earlier. We got a lot of the ACC playing the SEC this year. We were talking about how the challenge, it always used to be Big Ten and ACC, right? But I'm watching last night. Miami is trash. All of the ACC, if it wasn't for Clemson last night, they'd have gotten swept 10-0 by these SEC teams. And tonight you got two. Boy, I got to see something from Duke and North Carolina. They got to represent, because if Auburn and Alabama handle their business tonight, the ACC's got issues here, Colby.
I think they do have issues, and I think it starts with coaching, and maybe it's just a trickle down from the football money. I don't know what, but when you look at the SEC, I think the SEC is actually the best. I think the past couple of years it's been the Big 12, but I think the SEC is the best basketball conference this year. They're dominating the non-con, especially the ACC and the Big 12 in the head-to-heads. And you look at the coaching, whether it's Rick Barnes, who I know has his tournament problems, but he normally wins 25 games a year, I feel like, in the regular season, or 22, 23, 24. And then you look elsewhere, Chris Beard they brought in. Remember, Louisville almost had him a couple years ago. Yeah. And I'm sure Beard remembered that when they went toe-to-toe. But all around the whole conference, Nate Oates done an unbelievable job with the Alabama program. Bruce Pearl, has done great at both Tennessee and Auburn. And really, it's just Chris Jans at Mississippi State, I think, is a good coach. But the Buzz Williams at A&M, and you looking at the coaching is just better to me in the SEC, and also obviously the athleticism, and I think that's a result of the dollar bills directly. But you look at the ACC, and Roy Williams retired, Coach K retired, Tony Bennett retired. Losing those guys, the pedigree, the teams aren't playing as well. So I think they have major problems as a conference right now. But I do think tonight's interesting. I think Duke will win this one for them. I think Duke against Auburn, the fact that Auburn's coming back from that great trip in Hawaii, and then they got to go to Cameron Indoor Stadium where these nerds have been, camping out for a week. You know what I mean? So I feel like we're in a good spot. I know that line that was at 2 today. It's at 3.5, I think, right now. But I still think Duke with that stadium and Auburn, they've looked phenomenal. They look like the best team in the country right now, but they have had some close calls. Go back to that Houston game against Houston. And then the opener there in Maui. So I just think, you continue to challenge yourself. You're due for regression at some point. Cameron Indoor Stadium is one of the hardest places to win. I think Duke also coming off the loss there to Kansas. I guess that was 2 games ago because they got a mid-major there in between. But I think this is a good spot for Duke to catch them.
How good is Florida? Because I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen. Now they got to take on a Tony Bennett-less Virginia team. I mean, I'm not running a window to lay 17, but I also would not be shocked at all if they absolutely blow the doors off. And much like we've already saw, right, in the Bahamas, Tennessee, St. John's, absolutely, Virginia's still good against the mid-majors and the lesser programs, but we've seen what the big boys can do in Florida. Boy, they got some big boys there that can all shoot the three and they can all grab their rebounds, and I think Virginia's in trouble here, man.
Yeah, I for the whole season, I think they're in trouble. They had some Tony Bennett quits a week before the season or 10 days before the season. A couple guys hit the portal. They just lack talent and athleticism. Even those teams, that 2019 team that got incredibly lucky that won the national championship, they had NBA guys on that roster. This one, I look around and they don't. And one of the other things is they don't have the in-game coaching that Tony Bennett provides, which I think is very pivotal. When you're playing, night in, night out. I still think they have kind of the triple option approach to compare it to football, where they try to limit possessions, draw out the clock, almost running a 4 corners offense, so to speak. I think it's a big number. I took the points. I didn't actually personally bet this one, but Florida is another one where I think they've had such a good season. They're just due for kind of a letdown spot. But I do think Florida is just there's no way they're going to lose this game. So yeah, you may be right on the Gator side of this one.
Yeah, well, the Gators win. If I can get Virginia to 55-60, I think the Gators will give me enough to get over this 133 number. I think it's a little bit low even for Virginia. All right, a couple of games I want to get to with you here coming up. I want to talk about Kansas and Creighton. And don't look now, but somebody told you about Oregon a couple of weeks ago. Wouldn't you know it? Taking on Musselman and USC tonight. We'll talk more about it here on Game Time Decisions.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Told me I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
right, welcome back in, and like a mountain hawk, Colby Dant back for another round with us here, and it's always a pleasure to get to hang out with Colby, talking some college basketball here. All right, let's talk about the number one team in the country coming up tonight. They'll have their hands full against Creighton. Should be a good one here. I keep going back and forth. Kansas currently number one team in the country. I want to bet the over in this one, but what do you think we're going to get here with Creighton at home taking on Kansas?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming this line. This is Ryan Cockbrenner, who scored like 49 points. I think in a game. I think in the past 2 weeks. He's a game time decision. Now, the line kind of tells me I think that he's playing. But it's a little weary. Just if he doesn't play, like you should not take Creighton at all. But I think he's going to play, and I think the line is telling you that. So I will. Creighton historically has been amazing at home, and Bill Self in Kansas, they're sitting there 7-0. They're normally good to drop one non-con game a year, be it whoever it may be. But I think it's a spot. They have Missouri on deck, which is an old Big 8 rivalry that they don't play that often anymore. So I'm going to say Cockbrenner plays. I'm going to say Creighton gets it done. Creighton has struggled this season. The Big East, the whole Big East has struggled this season. But really, to me, at home, they lost to Nebraska and Fred Hoiberg recently. And I think this is just a get-right spot, beat the number one team in the nation. This historically has been an unbelievable home court advantage for Creighton. I think they dial back into that juju there, but Cockbrenner's got to play. I mean, I could really lose this wager if he's not playing, or if he gives it a little bit of a go and he's dinged up after a couple minutes. I don't see how they can stay close with them. So you definitely need Cockbrenner, but I think Creighton at home behind that crowd, they get it done.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like now or never here. This would be a much bigger game, I think, for Creighton than it is for Kansas at this particular point. First real true road game here for Kansas. And then, of course, late night. I've been preaching this team for all season long. Dana Altman has himself a legit Elite Eight, maybe even Final Four style team here. They'll be taking on USC, their old rivals. Remember that Pac-12 days? Boy, those were good times, weren't they? Listen, the Trojans in a couple of years, give Musselman some time. This is going to be back to a top-end program in no time. I love Musselman. But I just look at this, Oregon's size, the way Dana Altman has got these kids playing. This feels like if it was anybody other than their rival USC over the years, I would say maybe a letdown. I don't know how much of a letdown we're going to get here tonight, but I do love this Oregon team moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the Ducks against Alabama as well. And, they've been super impressive so far this year, with the exception of that game against Portland, against Little Brother. But I do think I like kind of fading a lot of these teams coming off those big tournament wins. Whether it was Maui, whether it was, I tend to circle the ones in Maui and like Cancun and Atlantis a little bit more. But I still think Oregon, coming off that NIL one in Vegas, coming back, taking on USC. And if you have, I live in Los Angeles, so if you haven't checked out, these games are empty. Like these, especially in the beginning part of the season. So it is a sleepy environment. I almost think that can be a somewhat of a home court advantage for you when it's sleepy and you're not, I'm going into LA. We're not playing UCLA. I think USC, I thought the line was way off in this one. I thought this should have been like a 9 or 10 point spread. It's 5.5. Made me weary. It made me think that maybe Oregon is sleepwalking into this one. So I went with the Trojans in the points, but I understand your logic. Oregon's been a way better team this year. I think they are going to be a way better team this year. It's really just the spot, I think.
What can you explain the Texas NC State line? Texas best defense in the country, only laying 2 on the road. This feels trappish to me. No, Colby?
I'm with you 100% here. NC State, the line, is a little confusing. It's basically telling you to take NC State, in my opinion, with the way that home court advantage is. So, yeah, give me the Wolfpack there to get it done against the Longhorns.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a good, that might be a good outright dog here tonight to hop on there. Don't understand the line at all. Colby, outstanding, flying like an eagle as always here, my man. Always a pleasure to see you. Enjoy the games here tonight. We'll talk to you again as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on this Wednesday. I can't believe December is here. So is week 14 of the NFL season, as we've got a big Thursday night battle coming up tomorrow between, two teams that, quite honestly, in the NFC side of things, we'll be seeing them again in the playoffs, and that's Green Bay taking on Detroit. Brady Cannon stepping in, joining us here. And gotta love this game here, Brady. We saw it once already. And Detroit handled business at Lambeau, although the box score tells a different story. They got outgained. They got less first downs, but they were able to get that pick six, and that was kind of the difference. I'm worried about this defensive side of Detroit. How many more damn injuries can they deal with, Brady, before, I don't know, one team who can run the ball, and I don't know anybody running it better right now than Josh Jacobs in Green Bay. This could be a tough one here for Detroit. What do you think?
Well, you bring up a couple of great points, Joe. You mentioned the pick six in that last ball game, a 10-point victory for the Detroit Lions. So without that random occurrence, it's a 3-point game, right? And here we have a 3.5-point spread. I made the number 3. Excuse me. It opened up 4.5. Now it's come down to 3.5. Yep. That's where I made it. I thought maybe they were opening it up 4.5 because in protection, they figure the Lions have become a public team. They're making people money. And I think you're paying a tax on the Lions these days with them blowing teams out. I mean, the Titans, the Jaguars, some of these wins, they've been averaging a margin of victory of over 40 points. So I think there's a little bit of a premium you're paying for the Detroit Lions right now. And I thought that's maybe why it opened up at 4.5. Now, when I crunch my first set of numbers here, I come out 5.5. But all of this is maybe a moot point with the injuries you talk about on defense. And we saw the Chicago Bears light them up in that second half on Thanksgiving. They really should have lost that game outright. Chicago just found a way to mess that thing up, and unbelievably, the Lions hang on not only for a season here that only has one blemish and a loss to Tampa Bay, but for all those Circa Survivors players on Thanksgiving that nearly thought they were going to lose with the Detroit Lions that day. So, this line has a lot of different factors, and I think if I'm Green Bay or I'm wanting to back Green Bay and I'm getting more than a field goal, if I'm getting that 3 and a hook or 4, that's probably the direction I go. I think that 10 points in the last game is a little bit misleading. Detroit, we keep saying it week in and week out. When are they ever going to slip? Well, they did slip in the second half against Chicago, and now physically on paper they are beaten up as well. So there's more reason than just a situational, collapse here that might lead them to slip. It's physical in nature with some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So I'd probably lean with the Green Bay Packers here and the points if I could get better than a field goal, which you can, readily available right now.
Yeah, the hook, I guess I don't see this going the other way. I think Romeo Doubs is back, too. They'll have their full complement. And if Josh Jacobs keeps running the way he's running, those injuries are going to come into play there for Detroit. Let me take you to Sunday night, then. We got Thursday night. What about Sunday night? Because your Chargers, hell of a bounce-back win there against Kirk Cousins, who was apparently wearing a Charger uniform. But now they got the Chiefs, and what am I to make? Is this Chargers defense good? Are they lucky? Like what am I? The offense is kind of stagnant here. It's kind of slowed down a little bit, but what am I to make of this Chargers team here going on the road?
Well, great questions. I mean, the defense has certainly not looked the part when they have faced good offenses like the Baltimore Ravens and like the Cincinnati Bengals. That was not the same defense that we've seen limit everybody to 13 points, everybody being the Titans and the Jaguars and these teams that they have played leading up to those games against Cincinnati and Baltimore, where they played some real deal offenses. And I thought we were going to see something similar against Atlanta. On top of that, it was an awful spot for them to come off of that very emotional game, the Harbaugh Bowl, and to go across the country and take on a Falcons team that was coming out of a bye week. Everything absolutely set up there for Atlanta. And I think it says a lot about Raheem Morris and the lack of, coaching that he brings to the table. When you come out of a bye week and your quarterback throws 4 interceptions and your field goal kicker misses the first attempt of the day, that doesn't look to me like good preparation. And so I don't know what to make of the Falcons, but the Chargers, I mean, Justin Herbert didn't even throw for 150 yards in that game. I think it's a sign of a good team when you can somehow survive and get a victory, So I made this number against the Chiefs 3. And it opened up 4. And I talk about paying a premium for the Lions. For years, we've been paying a premium on the Kansas City Chiefs. The odds makers know they will never have to beg for Chiefs money in the near future. So I think that number was set a little high intentionally at 4 when they opened up. Again, when I crunch my first set of numbers, I come to 2.5. I think the real number here, Joe, is 2.5 or 3 in favor of Kansas City. I think 3 might still be a take on the Chargers, and anything better than that, absolutely. I think I'd take the dog here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It feels like maybe an under, given what we've seen from these two offenses lately. Both Kansas City maybe struggle. It feels like a good divisional battle. I'm looking forward to seeing, because if the Chargers are as good as maybe we think they are, they can go to they need to go to Arrowhead and win a game. That's what they need to do, and I think will send a big message, Brady. And then, of course, I got a lot of people looking to fade the Bills this week against the Rams. Why? Well, they locked up the East. They're pretty much solidified here. What do we do? Are we thinking letdown spot? We've seen this in years past with Josh Allen and the Bills. They get that letdown. They lose 2 or 3 games, and we're like, what the hell is wrong with the Bills? Do we trust them this year in order to keep it rolling against the Rams?
Well, the number I thought was interesting, opening up 3.5. I made it 4.5,
Yes.
and I'm on board with you that this doesn't look like a good spot for the Bills. We've seen the Rams be very good in spots like this at home. They did it against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, on the other hand, they laid an egg against the Miami Dolphins. But I think the Rams are a pretty darn good team. You know, they've had some good wins on the road. And just last week, I mean, it looked like the Saints were competitive as all get out, and then all of a sudden the Rams won that game by a touchdown. That was pretty wild, how they were able to survive that. So, yeah, I think they will give the Bills a good run here. I don't know if I'm going to be involved in this game because you're right. The situation screams Rams here, but my numbers say Bills, and that's understandable. The Rams don't have great numbers. The Bills do. I mean, I've got one set of numbers that says Bills by 8. But I know that's not right either. The Bills winning by 3 or 4 makes sense. I think the Rams winning outright makes sense. I don't have a strong opinion on this one, Joe, but I hear you loud and clear that it does not look like a good spot for Buffalo.
I hate the spot for them there. I do like the spot, however, for an over with Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Is it? Are we not getting points in this game, Brady?
Yeah, no, it's almost like these two teams become over teams, right?
It's crazy.
When was the last? I mean, Russell Wilson throws for 400 yards. What's going on? Jameis, God bless him, and I mean, the guy's the greatest quote in sports these days. And if you had the Broncos, God bless him as well, with the pick sixes in both the first half and the second half, and the last interception to seal the deal. But yeah, I mean, that last time they played in the snow. And the game still went over the total. So I think I would have to go that direction.
Is Pittsburgh our AFC North champ, Brady?
Yes, I believe they are. I think overall, Baltimore has better offense. Pittsburgh is better all around.
I agree. And all around matters. Brady Cannon, appreciate it as always. GTD is back.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, you know, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek. As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas, you know?
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we are getting ready for a monster night here across the college basketball slate as well as the NBA. Mix in 4 NHL games. You get ready for Week 14 of the NFL season tomorrow night. And, oh, yeah, conference championships this weekend, Week 15 of the college football season. And when you put it all together, Scotty Wetzel joining us, getting ready for a big night here of in-game live, Scotty. And my goodness, we got games everywhere here. NBA, college hoops. What a college basketball night. We currently have Baylor and UConn going at it, knotted up at 39 apiece here as they just started the second half. But give me a game you're looking at in college hoops here tonight.
That was one of them. I must say, I'm betting against UConn from here on out. I really am, Joe, unless they're playing some cupcake because, I don't think the team is any good. Well, compared to last year, let's put it that way, and 2 years ago, obviously. A lot of losses. And now that all the officials hate the head coach, Hurley, there's no reason to have any close games go their way. So anytime they're in a game like Baylor tonight, I'm waiting. I'm praying for some close call, final 10 seconds to go Baylor's way just to hear Hurley, hurl some expletives after the game. It's getting to be great entertainment. So, I mean...
It's the only worth watching it. It's just waiting for his head to explode. And it's must-watch television, Scotty. I think it's great. What are we doing with Auburn and Duke tonight? Boy, the ACC has been getting crushed. The SEC has been hammering everybody. Are they good enough to beat Auburn?
I think we're going to get a little regression with that tonight. What do we have? One ACC team win last night, Clemson. That was the only one.
Yep.
You know what? I'm going to stay away from the game as far as who's going to win or lose. I'm going to go under, Joe. I said it before, this Dookie Pukey team, they're an under team with John Shire as head coach. They really are. 5-2 this year under after going 23-13 under last season. So those are pretty good numbers. Add it all up, that's 28-15 under. 13 more unders than overs with him as head coach. Auburn loves to get up and down the court. They've had 147 points in every single game except one this year, and that was a blowout. Otherwise, they could have. So, I know they're going to try and push it, but that, I like that even more to an under. When the Dukies are saying, all right, we can't get into a track meet with these guys. So let's really make a concerted effort to slow it down versus it being like a blowout game. Who cares? So give me the under. Auburn, believe it or not, 20-15 under last season as well, slight under because their numbers are so high. So I like the under on that one, Joe. And I got to, like I was talking about the regression, I got to take Pittsburgh tonight, plus 5.5 at Mississippi State. Mississippi State, 6-1, good team, but this Pittsburgh team's like the real deal. They've beaten some good teams this year. West Virginia, Ohio State on the road the other day, LSU. They're in the NET rankings, which I don't know what these rankings mean. All I know is they're number 5 in the country. So whatever it means, it's got to be pretty damn good if they're number 5 in the country. Yep. KenPom rankings, we all familiar with those. They're 13th. You're getting 5.5 too. You maybe by the hook, get it up to 6. That's a pretty good number. That's not 1 or 2. So give me Pittsburgh, albeit on the road, plus the 5.5.
Yeah, and that Iowa State game, I think, should be interesting, too, against Marquette here. Marquette and Shaka Smart usually been pretty decent as a dog, but it feels like this Iowa State team, the defense, the pressure, the shooting, it feels like this is not a bad spot to get behind them here tonight.
Yeah, again, decent little number, 5.5. I prefer this one 2.5, 3. But bottom line is, they're 22-2 at home, Joe, over the last 2 seasons. They don't lose at home, and that's where they are tonight.
Nope.
So they took Auburn down to the wire, 2-point loss in the Maui Invitational championship game last week. So my only concern is they've had a week off since then. And sometimes it's a little rusty. Maybe lean towards the under, but I think with everything is said and done, give me Iowa State, and hopefully some fouls late allows them to cover the 5.5-point spread.
All right, talk to me in the NBA here tonight. Couple of interesting games. Minnesota traveling to the Clippers tonight for one of the late night specials there. Clippers, no Norm Powell, kind of hard to get behind him in this spot. They did beat Portland last night, but so what? Who do you like in the game?
Yeah, this has got suspicious written all over, right? And Minnesota's a 3-point road favorite. You know what? The Clippers are playing great basketball. Surprisingly enough, they really are. But this is their third game in 4 nights, Joe. So what are you really going to get out of James Harden? You know, you cut up the head to kill the snake, right? He's clearly the head of this L.A. Clipper team. Veteran player like he is, playing 3 games in 4 nights. That's why they're a home underdog tonight. And that's why I like the Minnesota. You know, rested, didn't play. Played 2 nights ago against the Lakers, killed the Lakers. That wasn't even a close game. So I'm getting a well-rested Minnesota team, maybe finally turning things around. They've won 2 in a row. It's been a season-long struggle for them, only 10-10. But I like them tonight. And they've beaten the Clippers 6 of their last 7 meetings. So you give me Minnesota tonight, laying a small price on the road.
Lay it with Minnesota here tonight. How about that Bucks and Atlanta team? 2 teams that have finally gotten healthy, figured it out. Bucks laying 4.5 after taking it to Detroit last night. What do you think we get here?
Yeah, it's really a good game, right? Atlanta's finally figured it out as well, Joe. They've won 4 straight. I hate to go against the Hawks. I really do. But Milwaukee very quietly has won 9 of their last 10. It took them a few weeks to really get going, but they did, for whatever reason. Like I said, 8-3 at home this season, despite all the struggles they've had. They're still 8-3 at home. So give me them. And I'm going to go with Brooklyn, another situational spot, grabbing 2.5 at home against the Pacers. 4th worst against the spread mark in the NBA. Does Indiana have? The Nets have one of the best at 13-8-1. And more importantly, Indiana playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. So while the Nets, and they've lost 3 in a row, they've not played good basketball either. That's a tough spot for them.
No. One of the most frustrating teams this year, Indiana. Can't figure them out at all. Where is all the scoring? Where was the fun team we watched a year ago there, Scotty? They've gone by the wayside. All right, stay there, Scotty. When we get back, we'll get a couple of picks in the NHL for you. And then, of course, get ready for what is going to be a huge night across the board here in all sports. We got much more to go before we close it out here. Game Time Decisions continues on The Grid.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. We look to wrap up this edition together, not before we welcome back in our good friend Scotty Wetzel, who'll be taking over here in just a few minutes for In-Game Live, and we've got plenty of games tonight. Scotty, college hoops, NBA, and NHL, in fact, 4 games on the slate. And I talked to George Kurtz last hour, and you got to love it. I was hoping somebody would show up and give me a nice dog here tonight, and you got one with Anaheim, and I love this play. What are you thinking?
Yeah, listen, you know what? I'm going to grab the Mighty Ducks, who are no longer mighty, but they're still the Ducks at home, getting plus 140 against Vegas. You know, it's not a bad little spot. I know who the heck wants to put their hard-earned American money on Anaheim, right? But you know what? The Ducks are actually been halfway decent of late. 6-4, Joe, their last 10 games. I know they got the second fewest goals in the league at 60. I get all that, but Vegas only 6-7 on the road, so nothing special on the road from them. They played last night, hard-fought, 1-0 emotional game against Edmonton. I mean, you're going from Edmonton to Anaheim, so natural letdown here for sure. Meanwhile, it's Anaheim's championship game for sure. Give me the Mighty Ducks. Why not plus the 140 against, a mediocre on-the-road Vegas team?
And they are mediocre at, to say the least there. All right, what else do you got? I believe a total for the this is a terrible spot for Dallas, though, right, Scotty?
Yeah, I'm going to go under. Kings are pretty good. You could go with the LA Kings.
Yep.
No qualms with that. But I'm going to go with the under just because last 5 meetings under. Dallas on a 5-0 under run. They're not scoring of late. So 5-0 under last 5 games between these two teams in LA as well. It all kind of points to a 2-1, 3-1 type of game. So give me the under 5.5 Dallas and LA Kings.
I love it. All right, going to be a huge night here, Scotty. You will pass the reins off here in a couple of minutes. Enjoy it. Appreciate the time as always here as In-Game Live is coming up, guys, here as soon as we're done. And we've got plenty more to go over here tonight. So you have no need for you to go anywhere, really, quite honestly here. We've got you covered on the Sports Grid Network as we are watching Baylor and UConn. What a game, back and forth in Storrs, Connecticut here. 48-45, UConn on top. About 14 minutes to go in the game. Number 15, Baylor. Number 25, UConn, 2-time defending champs, finally at home. And they are going to be tested once again here with this Baylor Bears team. Also underway, North Carolina and Alabama. We've been telling you about that. ACC and SEC challenge, one that there hasn't really been a challenge. It's been all SEC, but North Carolina and Alabama going back and forth. Alabama on top, 38-28. First half, about 3 minutes to go. That game, we were laughing at the total earlier, 176.5, 177. In-game total right now, 172.5. So many things have to go right for you to get to 180 points without overtime in a college basketball game. So it's going to be interesting to see if any defense gets played whatsoever in this game. But right now, Bama up 10, 38-28. We mentioned earlier, too, that we loved Florida and the over tonight, even playing Virginia, who is the second, I believe, the slowest tempo team or the second slowest tempo team in the country. We all know Virginia is not in a rush to score. They pride themselves on defense. First one to 50 wins. 133 was that total here tonight. We were hoping Virginia could get to 50. I don't know that that's going to be a problem because they've got 30 points already, 37-30 right now. In-game total, 144.5. Florida was laying 17 in that game. So they are going to have a little more work to do come the second half. We're getting ready for Marquette, Iowa State to tip off. That should be a fantastic game as well. Also, Kansas and Creighton, number 1 Kansas, laying 4 on the road against the Creighton Blue Jays. Big spot for Creighton. Will they be able to get it done? So much great college basketball still to come here tonight, culminating with the late night special. Oregon taking on USC. Don't be afraid to lay it with Oregon. They are a top 5 team as far as I'm concerned. Looking to bet them in the future market. Can't wait for the for the Final Four, the Elite Eight. Can't wait for In-Game Live because that's coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow here.